thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
A poor man prayers,
every man bleeds.
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy SL550, and this is the N.G.L.A podcast. Listen, man, first off, I want to apologize, man, because I made a promise to do 2 streams a day, man, but I ain't gonna lie, man. My son was a little bit of a handful. I started to bring him down here, but he be touching everything. He's only 9 months old, so, you know, it was gonna be too much. I ain't even gonna lie. So I just settled for 1. And so before we start, man, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe to the channel, man. Y'all already know how this algorithm works. The more you share, the more you comment, the more you watch, the more you subscribe, and I truly appreciate it, man. So today, man, we're gonna talk about a few things, man. And let me make sure this is up. No, all right, cool.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire.
All right, here we go. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about USAID shutting down. We're going to talk about how the left just lies so much, and all of the things that they talk about and they discuss just ain't true. And we're going to show you, and because Victor Hansen is going to break it down for you, and the smallest denominator to let you know how much these people just lie. And then we're going to play a video of Eric Burlison exposing the left, man. And so we're going to get straight to it today, man. We're going to keep it nice and short, to the point, sweet, but yet it's going to give you a lot of good information, and that's what it's all about. So let's get to this first video.
Joining us now is journalist William Herkwitz, former head of communications for USAID missions in Rwanda, Ethiopia, and Kenya. I guess just we want to start there, William, with the deaths prevented by USAID from 2001 to 2021. This is according to The Lancet. 25 million from HIV and AIDS, 11 million from diarrheal diseases, 8 million from malaria, 5 million from tuberculosis, 92 million deaths prevented total in 133 countries in 20 years. Talk about what it means for the United States to pull out completely, it seems, from helping the rest of the world, countries that we have.
Yo, first of all, off the rip, why is he assuming that the United States of America has to be the knight in shining armor for every country in the world? That's just not true. USAID obviously was a front to funnel money through, and we're going to act like we helping all of these kids over there. Mind you, I really wanted to show you because they be trying to play Africa out, and they be trying to play a lot of these countries out like they these super, like people out there with, you know, no, I'm not saying that there's not parts of the world where you got tribes and people that still kind of live like, you know, it's back in those times. But, bro, it's beautiful in Africa. It's beautiful in these other foreign countries that, you know, we so-called sending aid to. And my whole thing is, where are these numbers coming from? MSNBC? Come on. We gonna believe MSNBC and their polls and their numbers when we already proved on how much fraud, waste, and abuse was going on at USAID. So off the rip, they wanted, this is how they try to program the people. I want to show them how many lives USAID saved. Okay.
Extracted from often, dealing with the kinds of things that they're dealing with and what we're talking about here.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I mean, honestly, the report from The Lancet is not surprising. It aligns with what every major humanitarian organization is warning, that gutting American aid is going to cost millions of lives. From my own personal experience in East Africa, that could not be more clear. Even just to give a few examples, in Kenya, I saw children receive American-funded HIV medications. In Ethiopia, I saw families in disaster zones whose lives were saved by food grown on American farms. When you take away life-saving medicines, when you take away emergency food, you should, of course, expect death.
You know, William, Eugene mentioned how Secretary Rubio talked about the, quote, government-sanctioned inefficiency. In the New York Times on Wednesday, New York Times columnist Nick Kristof wrote about, and this is the headline, millions of vaccine doses go to waste in West Africa. He writes, I went to a warehouse behind a fence and I found millions of doses of medicines that had been donated to Sierra Leone. They are gathering dust and some of them are approaching their expiration date and may have to be destroyed because the Trump administration canceled the program to distribute them. And I raise that because the big mantra out of this administration is we're going after waste, fraud, and abuse. But what does it mean when it is this actual administration that is contributing clearly here to the waste?
I mean, what you just shared is tragic. It is worth remembering that Secretary Rubio himself has publicly praised American aid many times in the past, including after seeing it with his own eyes. But I really do think that the deeper issue is this. Secretary Rubio is able to get away with these claims partially because we, inside USAID, failed. We failed to loudly and repeatedly tell our fellow Americans about the millions of lives their tax dollars were regularly saving.
My bad. Like I was saying, they talking about all of these foreign. They talking about telling the taxpayers how much money all of this, how much money the taxpayers are paying to save all of these lives. But nobody cares because there's plenty of people right here in America who are dying from fentanyl, who are dying from drug overdoses, who are dying from being homeless, who it's a bunch of homeless veterans. It's a bunch of homelessness here. It's a bunch of people that need aid here. It's a bunch of people that's on single mothers that's on welfare that need the aid here. And you talking about in foreign countries who have governments of their own. So because they have failing governments and because they want to be dictators and they want to live in a communist country, that what United States got to come through and what save everybody. It just doesn't make sense, bro. It's just another excuse for them to have another pipeline of our money going to their pockets. Because best believe all of this money, I believe that some of it is going there to make it look good. You know, you're going to show a few pallets of water, a few pallets of some rice and this and that. But all of the money is not going there. Trust and believe that there's people inside of these agencies who are funneling money, and that's why Trump shut it down. But look at this. It's just a sad story. Here it goes.
I believe that was our biggest failure, and it's what has created the space for these fairly heartless falsehoods and accusations, including the ones you stated from Secretary Rubio.
Yeah, everyone should read that. That's on the New York Times. I worked at USAID for over 8 years. This is our biggest failure from Sunday, June 29th. You know, when I was talking to...
The biggest failure is all the money that has been wasted through there. That's the biggest failure. USAID is a failure, just like the Department of Education is a failure because we're damn near dead last on the education spectrum, period. So why should it be there? If it's fair, it's just any business, it just doesn't make sense. If the government was a business, literally since they started auditing the government, they failed every year since. So from a business aspect, the people that they got in place running these departments aren't doing their jobs, period. They're taking the money, right? They're asking for billions and billions of dollars, and Congress is giving it to them, and then they're taking this money, and a lot of it could be put back into the pot, but instead of them putting it back into the pot, what do? They shell it out to these NGOs and all of these so-called organizations who nobody knows who it is. You can't follow it. You can't trace it back to nothing. There's no receipts. And that's why they mad at Elon Musk, because Elon Musk exposed all of this. And that's why I'm pissed, because Elon is, you know, him and Trump is beefing or whatever they got going on. And it's really blowing my shit because they really was making a lot of headway with all of this stuff. And I don't know what happened, man. I hope at some point, you know, that they get back to it, man, because this shit is...
USAID officials, when all of this first started, when
just
Doge
allows
first started
a lie,
going
bro.
after
It
them,
just pisses me
they
off.
told me, one told me, and I'll never forget it, this is the richest man in the world going after the poorest people in the world and making it worse. And I wonder what you think, and in the conversations you had with other people who worked for USAID in the past, what it says to the rest of the world that the United States is pulling back. Who will fill that vacuum?
Yeah, I mean, I think first it's quite important to just like state
How
what
about
we're
their
pulling
countries?
back from. I'd like to give just one example that I saw personally, one story that I wish every American knew. So between 2020 and 2023, a historic drought swept across Somalia, Kenya, and Ethiopia. These are 3 countries in East Africa. This was the longest drought recorded in any 3 of these countries, and it put 40 million people on the path to humanitarian aid by the time it ended. I mean, we're talking about a disaster of biblical proportions. And although it barely registered in American public life, Americans stepped up. Taxpayers provided 70% of the aid needed to keep people from dying. We're talking about the absolute basics here. USAID provided...
I don't even want to hear this shit no more. Shut it down. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's just, like, all it is them trying to, it's just them trying to make taxpayers feel bad. Mind you, they sit there and say, the taxpayers, man, the taxpayers don't know what this money is going to. People just pay their taxes and move on. That's all they do. And if they don't pay their taxes, you're going to come after them and put them in jail and give them all of these tens of thousands of dollars in fines. So people pay their taxes and they keep it pushing. They don't know what this money is going to. So you're sitting up here, you say you're a worker and you work there and y'all did all this humanitarian work, but nobody knows. Nobody really knows. Where's the receipts? Where's the receipt? Where's the receipts at? No, like, what are you talking about? These people, bro, these people kill me, bro. They kill me because they're just so fake. So fake, man. So you know what? Let me play, because I want to play this, because this kind of shuts all of that down, to be honest with you. I want to play this right here. Because this kind of shuts all, that whole argument that they have, it kind of shuts it all down, really.
Burleson showed how far the Democrats fell.
And I want to remind my Democratic friends, at a point in which you once had the majority of the American people on your side, this is what your party believed in.
In a House hearing on government efficiency, the Missouri representative...
So they're going to literally expose the fact that at one point, when USAID was open and Joe Biden was in office, Obama was in office, it's going to break down a little bit of it. And Elon is in this too. So they want to talk about how Elon Musk is the richest man going after the poorest people. But the poorest people where? Elon is here in the United States. He's an immigrant who lives here in the United States. He cares about what's going on in our government. He cares about what's going on here. The reason why USAID needs to be shut down is because it's a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in it. It's not sitting there saying that no money is going to good out here in these other countries. It's just that it's a lot more money that's not being able to be traced. There's a lot more money that, that's just being wasted. And it's being funneled through these NGOs, these non-government organizations, and they can't trace no money back. So there's no receipt. So it's just going to expose these people.
Played a series of clips exposing modern-day Democrats. Elon Musk also chimed in, explaining how members of Congress might be benefiting from government waste.
Let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress. How'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year?
That's why today, we're covering it all, because we're not here to blindly follow parties. We're here to push common sense. So, if you're an independent thinker, hit that subscribe button and let's jump into it.
I just want to speak frankly at first to the American people. We're nearing $37 trillion in national debt. What does that mean? That means that each and every U.S. taxpayer owes over $323,000. Okay? What does that mean? That means when the EPIC, which is the Economic Policy Innovation Center, says we have 18 trillion left. That's it. 18 trillion left to take out, and we're spending $2 trillion in debt every year. Folks, we're at the precipice of a debt, we're like a debt cycle. We are literally at a point in which the dollar will be worth nothing.
I understand what Eric is trying to do when he said that each U.S. taxpayer owes over $320,000 or whatever. It's meant to shock, emphasize just how out of control the national debt has become, and urge Congress to focus on government efficiency. But still, there's a better way to say it. That phrasing makes it sound like regular Americans are personally responsible for the mess in Washington, when in reality, we're the ones footing the bill while having the least control over how it's spent. As taxpayers, we're doing our part. We show up, we pay what's owed, and trust that the government will use those funds responsibly. What we don't expect is for that money to be funneled into bloated programs, endless studies, foreign pet projects, and administrative black holes that offer nothing in return for the average person. Back to Burlington's main point. Modern-day Democrats have consistently pushed back against nearly every effort to improve how the government runs. That's why he played a clip highlighting just how much the party has shifted.
And I want to remind my Democratic friends, at a point in which you once had the majority of the American people on your side, this is what your party believed in.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better.
Yo, this is like so perfect because this is Clinton, and I believe that might be Al Gore. I can't really tell, but this is perfect because it's going to show you how far these people have came, bro. It's crazy.
And costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
That's Bill Clinton and Al Gore speaking about the Reinventing Government program, which was a major initiative that ran for about 5 years. Its core goals were clear. Put American taxpayers first. Cut through red tape, empower government employees to deliver real results, and most importantly, scale government back to its most essential functions. If that sounds familiar, it's because it mirrors exactly what DOGE is aiming to do today. So, here's the question. If these principles were good enough back then, why are Democrats now pushing back against the same ideas? Maybe it's because this was over 2 decades ago, and party priorities have changed. But even just 10 years ago, this message still had a strong support.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting.
Now, here's the funny part. Obama's VP, Joe Biden, was tasked with holding regular meetings with cabinet members to make sure that government waste was being eliminated, in addition to making it work better. Fast forward to Biden as president, and it feels like he's gone in the opposite direction. Take the Inflation Reduction Act, just as one example. It promised billions in investment towards green energy and infrastructure with the goal of building a cleaner and more sustainable future. But many of those projects never got off the ground. Why? Because of the very thing Joe was once assigned to fix: excessive bureaucracy. After showing these clips, Eric took the opportunity and tried to urge his Democrat colleagues to get on board with Doge, saying this.
I mean, we know Social Security goes bankrupt in 8 years, right? Medicare goes bankrupt in 10 years. And then 15 years from now, the dollar is completely devalued and worth nothing. So what does that mean? That means your pension, the money in your bank, your savings is nothing. It's worthless. So what are we doing? We're trying to save this country. We're trying to save your pensions. We're trying to save your bank accounts. We're trying to save this country for the next generation. And it would be nice if we had help. But instead,
they don't want to help. And this proves it. And this go to show you, Obama, before Obama, Clinton, these are all Democrats who preach the same thing that Donald Trump said. But the only one who actually is doing it is Donald Trump. Now, I can understand Elon being mad about the bill. We feel like it's adding to the debt. But at the end of the day, bringing in the tariff money is going to bring down the debt. Also, all the other things that's going to be cutting Medicaid and all of them things is they cutting out the waste. And that's what people don't understand. Like he just said, we were on a road to literally the dollar being devalued, which means everybody that's out here making all of this money and having millions, that shit was going to mean nothing 20 years from now. So y'all all out here caring about these fake racial issues like George Floyd, and meanwhile, they over here running the country into the ground. Because you got to look at it from a business aspect. Still, even though the government isn't a business, it still ran like one. And every department is supposed to be ran like a business. And it's supposed to have initiatives that's actually benefiting the American people, that's a benefit in America. And the problem is that they more worried about China, Canada, Mexico, and all of these other countries, Ukraine. They're more worried about them countries than they worried about us, because they have it in their brains that America is just a superpower and we can't go broke. We can't go bankrupt. But that's not true, bro. This country can fall just like any other country.
Instead, we have people that are fighting us on this.
Now, to be fair, to this very day, the cuts that Doge undertook aren't codified by Congress. Sure, the White House did its part by sending a $9.6 billion cost-cutting package to Capitol Hill. That proposal includes eliminating funding for USAID, PBS, and NPR. But it only narrowly passed the House, with several Republicans expressing hesitation and all Democrats voting against it. But the real roadblock appears to be the Senate. So far, they haven't even scheduled a vote on the package. And behind the scenes, there's clear resistance, especially from Senate leadership and Appropriations Committee members. In another appearance, Elon Musk hinted at why these reforms might never pass Congress. And needless to say, he didn't hold back.
And effectively, there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then it'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. But it is a circuitous route. It's not like it doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich.
Bro, that's true. You got people like Nancy Pelosi, worth like almost, if not $200 million. And she probably makes most $200,000 a year. How is that possible if this is what you do and this is where you make your money at? Because they're funneling money, bro, through these NGOs, like I said. And on top of that, they doing inside trading. We know that she pulled out of when I think Visa had a big lawsuit against them, or something happened with Visa, and she pulled out right before it happened. Miraculously, she just knew, Nancy Pelosi. So she's just one of many who are taking advantage of the taxpayers and taking advantage of the system by doing inside trading and shit like that. And even AOC said it, and she's a Democrat. She even said that a lot of these people are doing this inside trading and shit like that and getting over. But it's just crazy, because my whole thing is, at the end of the day, once the dollar becomes the value, what is it all for?
All earning, how they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that.
Exactly. Now, I don't have solid evidence to back what Elon just said, but it's a valid question. How could people who have a salary of less than $200,000 end up being millionaires after they enter office?
He's one of them too.
The
Bernie
math
Sanders
clearly doesn't add up. So something must be going on behind the scenes. I'd love to know your thoughts. So let's get the conversation rolling.
That's that video. Yeah, man, it's so crazy that these people are, it's just what it is, bro. And that's the thing that's so cool and interesting about what Donald Trump is doing, because that's the reason why they go against Donald Trump so much, because they know Donald Trump knows. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, these are two people I told you in previous videos. They made their fortunes. They're billionaires. So you got to think about it. Who has more to gain from taking away from the taxpayers? Donald Trump and Elon Musk, or a Nancy Pelosi, a Bernie Sanders, a AOC, a Letitia James? Who do you think has more to gain, and who would be more thirsty to steal from the taxpayers? 2 billionaires or a bunch of people that make under $200,000 a year? Come on, it's common sense, man. Let's get into this Vic Hansen video. This is gonna be the last video of the day. He's basically, this all coincides together, because he's going to talk about how, they was talking about there's going to be a recession with the tariffs, and we're just going to go into World War III because of Donald Trump and all of these different things. And he's going to expose how these things just didn't happen. And it just goes to show you, that's why I tell people, I don't understand why you believe these people when they get on the air and they preach what they talking about, because they just lied, man. It's a quick video. It's not too long. It's like 8-9 minutes.
I want to talk about our so-called experts. Recently, they made a series of statements that are absolutely confounded by reality. Let's take Iran. We get all of these stories that the United States strikes may not have done very much. David Albright, one of the most prestigious analysts of nuclear proliferation, he said there was serious damage. We were told that tariffs, they were going to crash the stock market. Here we are in June, and the stock market is at a record high. No recession, no inflation. What am I getting at? Most of the criticism of Donald Trump was not based on reality. These so-called economic gurus, you are so wedded to the idea that Donald Trump is going to destroy the United States because of your personal animus. You should try to shed your Trump derangement syndrome, because it's really affecting your powers of judgment and analysis. Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. I want to talk about our so-called experts. We know they've been wrong when they signed these collective letters. 51 intelligence authorities assured us Hunter's laptop was pretty much made up in Russia. But recently, in some of the marquee newspapers, sites, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, of course the New York Times, they made a series of statements by so-called experts that are absolutely confounded by reality. Let's take Iran. We get all of these stories that the combined Israel and the later United States strikes on the 3 key sites of uranium enrichment in Iran may not have done very much. We had a leak from the Pentagon, of course, that the media picked up that there was marginal damage. Anybody who looked at the post-operational photographs could see that there was substantial damage. And so we had David Albright, one of the most prestigious an analyst of nuclear proliferation. He said there was serious damage. We had the head of the International AEC, Mr. Grossi, serious damage. We had Israel, serious damage, Israel intelligence. And our intelligence agencies said serious damage, except for this outlying one from the Pentagon that the left-wing media picked up. So there is serious damage. I don't know why the left especially tried to suggest there wasn't. Remember, this is very, very ironic and paradoxical. The left told us before there was no need to strike Iran because they were months or years away from developing a bomb. There was no real existential danger now. As soon as we did hit, they said, oh my gosh, there might be uranium that could be quickly enriched. Think of that. They were hyping up the threat after this complete obliteration of many sites than they were before. The same thing, the same inexactitude is true of the reaction to the Iran war. People on the right, the MAGA base, said there would be 30,000 people killed, could cause World War III. We were told by the American and European left that we were going to mix up a cauldron of hatred. We were in Iranian airspace for about 25 minutes. No Americans were killed. Probably very few, if any, Iranians were killed. Immediately, Donald Trump was able to enact a ceasefire when Iran retaliated and hit our base in Qatar with some ballistic missiles. We had 22-year-old, 23-year-old skeleton crews manning those Patriot batteries. They knocked them down. Trump did not reply. End of story. No World War III, no 30,000 killed, no endless wars. Then we get to the border, and we were told that there's only one solution for the border, and that was comprehensive immigration reform. We heard that for years. In fact, all we needed was a new president to enforce existing laws. We were said even Donald Trump, should he come in and get everything he wants, there's no way you can reduce 10,000 people a day to zero. He did that. He did that. We were told that self-deportation was a myth. That was Mitt Romney's idea in the 2012 election. He kept saying, we can self-deport a lot of people. They will want to leave. But he had no plan how to do it. Donald Trump's ICE and Border Patrol and DOJ came up with a tripartite system. If you self-deport and you go back and you ever want to come back, you can legally. You can reapply. But if you're apprehended in the United States illegally, you can't come back, at least for 10 years. And we will give you $1,000 to go back. And we will pay your air ticket deep into your country. And you know what? Almost 1 million people have self-deported. And the immigration is now exclusively a problem of how to round up the people who came under Biden's administration, not to prevent new people. They're not coming because of these deterrents. Finally, the Wall Street Journal told us that the tariffs in March and April, they were going to crash the stock market. They were going to raise prices. We would have a hyperinflation. We were going to have a recession. We were going to lose jobs when coupled with deportation of, 1 million people leaving and another 300,000 or 400,000 deported. And yet here we are in June, and the stock market is at a record high. The Japanese, the Chinese, their prices for their products, despite the tariffs that they are paying, are the same, if not lower. Job creation is good. What am I getting at? Donald Trump is pretty commonsensical. If you take 1 million people away that were working in the shadows at cheaper wages and hurting American job opportunities, and you make countries that had asymmetrical tariffs and were responsible for a $1.1 trillion trade deficit, and you can stop that, and they still want entry into the American market, then you can have an economic renaissance. So just to conclude, on nuclear proliferation, wrong. On a forever war following the bombing of the uranium enrichment plants in Iran, wrong. wrong on the border, that it couldn't be defended, that you couldn't stop illegal immigration, you couldn't self-deport people, wrong on tariffs, wrong on the so-called trade war, no recession, no inflation, no sudden loss of jobs. What is the analysis that binds all of us together, whether it's the Wall Street Journal, as I said, or Bloomberg, or any of these so-called economic gurus who write on those pages? You should try to shed your Trump derangement syndrome, because it's really affecting your powers of judgment and analysis, and you're going to lose readers. You are so wedded to the idea that Donald Trump is going to destroy the United States because of your personal animus. You cannot see that most people have common sense solutions. Close the border. Tell people to leave who are here illegally. Tell countries not to put tariffs on our goods unless they want tariffs on theirs. And don't ever underestimate the U.S. Air Force when it flies into an undefended airspace. In short, most of the criticism of Donald Trump was not based on reality. Is this going to stop that fraudulent reporting? No, it's going to continue. But we're going to be astute and awake for their inconsistencies. Thank you very much.
Listen, I don't even gotta say much. He literally broke that shit down perfect. The vocabulary was immaculate. Like, yo, he one of the guys I go to for my. He's one of my sources, man. Vic David Hansen, man. He's definitely official. This dude broke everything down for you. I don't even gotta really say too much. At the end of the day, he proved to you what they said about the tariffs. It was gonna cause a recession. Wrong. It didn't. I just told you I went to the grocery store the other day. The prices is going down, just like he said. If they're not the same, they lower. And that's a fact. That's true. I bought groceries that are literally lower than they were 2 weeks ago. Gas went down, then it went back up to over $3 something. It was like $3.19, and then it went back down to under $3. So, that's the market. Same thing with the border. They told you, oh, Donald Trump stopped the bill. He stopped the bill. That's the reason why the border's not closed. They were literally flying immigrants in here. They wanted them here. And they had their own agenda with these illegal immigrants. And it's a national security risk because they was letting in murderers, and they murdered a lot of people. So people out here in these fake Democrat supporters out here in these streets talking about, abolishing ICE and all of this. Okay. That's not going to work. And he shut the border down. Trump literally said they reported that it was 0 border crossings last, I believe in June. 0. So it's a lie. It's a lie. They just lie. So if you are a person and you still believe what these people report on, just don't believe it. And just get your news from somewhere else, man. Period. This whole video exposes how corrupt the Democrats have become. You know what I mean? Because at one point, I always say since JFK, you seen what they did to JFK. He didn't get murdered by a foreign country. You know what I mean? This was domestic. And he was the real last Democrat who gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? But even Bill Clinton, even Obama knew that there was fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. So when you hear that these people sit there and say, what fraud, waste, and abuse? Where's the receipts? And then you go to Doge.com and you see the receipts. You see Elon Musk showing you all of the fraud, waste, and abuse that's in USAID, that's in these other departments in the government. And then you got, all they're going to do is say the opposite. But it's just not true. And the beauty is with social media, with reporters like Victor David Hansen, with podcasts like Officer Tatum, Barry Cunningham, the PBD podcast, me, myself, on a smaller scale. But these are guys that I watch and get information from who are reporting the real news. And they're giving you a real opinion. They're not just giving you their feelings. That's the problem with the left, is everything is based on feelings, my feelings. But at the end of the day, we got to deal with reality, people. And These people rarely deal in reality, bro. Everything is feelings. Everything is, let's worry about every other country except ours. Meanwhile, we're over here failing in education. We're $37 trillion in debt. Everything is sky high. People are struggling. Homelessness is at an all-time high. People are dying from fentanyl, all crazy. Like, come on, bro. What are we talking about, man? But anyway, man, like I said, I was going to keep it nice and short and sweet. It's your boy SL550. This is the N.G.L.A. podcast, man. Make sure y'all comment, share, support, and subscribe to the channel, man. Please hit that subscribe button. Every subscribe is much appreciated. And I'll see y'all tomorrow, man. I'm out.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
a poor man prayers.
Every man bleeds,
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.